there was this man named Eyov. Now, I want to give you in modern terms, he was a billionaire. Okay. He had endless amount of factories. He had endless amount of workers. He had endless amount of machinery and cars. And he lived in a very nice house. And he had a beautiful wife and 10 kids. What happens? The Sultan comes to Hashem. And Eyov, Hashem is so happy with Eyov. He's like, wow, he's such a Eved Hashem. He's doing so well. He loves me, and I'm able to work with him. He's such a tzaddik, Eyov. And the Sultan says, he's not such a tzaddik. You know why he's so nice? You know why he's such a tzaddik? Because he has so much money. Because he has so much livelihood. He has so much things going on in his life. So of course he loves you. What's not to love about you when everything is great? So Hashem said, let's see what happens. So he sends 4 terrible things to Eyov. The first thing is he says, all your ox, donkeys, and servants, everybody's going to die. He takes 500 of this, 500 of that, all the servants. And basically, the oxes and the donkeys are the things that carry his business. He basically burns down his business. All his factories go down. And all his workers get killed inside. He's in lawsuits. And then all his sheep and all his shepherds. So his sheep are the people, all his followers, all just disappear. And all the people who gathered them in, all the people who took care of the other factories, they all disappear. And then his camels, he has 3,000 camels, that all his camels just get confiscated. And he's left literally with nothing. A guy who's a billionaire and he is nothing, literally nothing. And to top it all off, his 10 kids die. A house falls on him. He had 7 boys and 3 girls. The house collapses on them. And he's alone in the world. He's lost his business. He's lost his kids. And then the icing on the cake, he suddenly gets this infectious skin disease and his entire body fills up with boils. So here, in a matter of days, he's gone for I don't know the time frame, but in a matter of time, he's gone from being this fabulously wealthy Oved Hashem. Satan comes to God and says, let's see what we could do. Takes him, puts him down on the floor. He's literally down on the floor. He's with boils. And what does Eyov say? Hashem nosan, Hashem lokach, Yishem Hashem mevorach me'ata be'adad. God gave, God takes. May God's name be blessed. And then Hashem says, the test isn't over. He says, I'm going to take 3 people, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Sophar. His friends are going to come visit him while he's laying there on the floor in boils, suffering. So the first one says to him, listen, I'll tell you what. He comes over to visit him. He says, perhaps you've done a lot of sin. Perhaps you maybe you steal. Maybe you did averos chamuros. He starts giving him musar. He says God's always judged by God. All the judgment is good. And each one of his friends start to tell him musar and tell him, why this happened. And this is a tikkun for your nefesh. He says, give him all of ideas. And you think that Eyov might have been tempted. But if Eyov says, Hashem nosan, Hashem lokach, Yishem Hashem mevorach. But Hashem comes to Eyov and he says to Eyov, let me tell you something. He says, they're going to bring karbanos, they're going to do a tikkun for what they did. But I want to tell you that your friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Sophar, they're getting punished. They're going to have a tremendous punishment. But Hashem says, here's your opportunity. I want you to daven for them. And if you daven for them with a full heart, even though you don't like them, because they were trying to take you away, they were trying to ruin your challenge. And the Satan wanted these people to ruin his challenge. And he says to him, okay. And Eyov starts davening. And he davens for these people. The Gemara says, and this never set well with me. How is it possible that if God sends me a problem and someone else has the same problem, I should daven for him? It sounds crazy. Now, I want to tell you something. it might just be crazy. And I'm going to explain to you something, and just bear with me. This might sound a little out of it, but I'm going to tell you about the Sefer Hasidim. The Sefer Hasidim says like this. He says that we know it says, anybody who davens for someone else and they need the exact same thing, they get answered first. Says the Sefer Hasidim. He says, when Hashem sends somebody something in this world, it's for a reason. We used to have a korban chatas. A korban chatas was when a person did an avera b'shogeg. He accidentally does something. Was he at fault? Well, if he was at fault, then why doesn't he bring a korban chatas if he does it b'mezid, on purpose? Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen that a chatas comes for a person because Hashem wants to show him where he needs to work. Says the Sefer Hasidim that had a person just daven for himself, that could have helped the other person. But sometimes, obviously, and I want to explain this Sefer Hasidim. He says like this. He says the only time, first I'll tell you what he says, and then I'll explain to you the caveat of why this needs to be taken specifically. Sefer Hasidim says that what it says that if you pray for someone else and you need the same Yeshua, that person gets answered first, is learned from two people. Is learned from Avram Avinu when he davened for Avimelech, and for Eyov when he davened for Eliphaz, Bildad, and so far. And I'll explain why. Says Sefer Hasidim that it's only because Avram hated or didn't like Avimelech, because Avimelech took his wife. And what happens by Avimelech, if you look in the Chumash, it says that Avimelech took Sarah, Imenu, our mother, the mother of all the Jews, and took her from Avram. And Hashem comes, and it's a psukim in the Torah. Hashem comes to Avimelech in a dream and says, Avimelech, you took Sarah, and you're going to get sick. And comes to Avram and tells Avram, you need to daven for Avimelech. And when you daven for Avimelech, he's going to get better. So Hashem clearly says that if a person says a Sefer Hasidim, that the only time it helps to daven for someone else when a person has a problem, the same problem themselves, is when you don't like that person because you're over on your midos. And Eyov also didn't like these people. They were ruining his challenge. So what do we learn from this? What is the Sefer Hasidim saying? He's saying that a prayer, every prayer, is an opportunity to be able to be Mekasher to Hashem. Now, a person, when he does for himself, when he davens for his own needs, it may seem like selfish. Obviously, we know the mashal, if you're on the plane, first put on your own ear mask if there's a loss in pressure, and then put on the child. Says the Sefer Hasidim that every person obviously should daven for other people. There's endless stories of people davening for other people. There's nothing wrong with davening for other people. But says the Sefer Hasidim, if you're doing it that you should get better, so you're doing it for selfish reasons. That's the exact opposite of what the message is. The message is that if you daven, you should daven for yourself, not for selfish reasons. You should daven for yourself because when you are metuken, Klal Yisrael is metuken, says the Sefer Hasidim. That of course the Yeshua will come, and of course you should daven for other people as well. But by davening for yourself, that comes the tikkun. And here I want to talk about, I want to explain this idea because there's still something feels like it's missing over here. What exactly does this mean? What do you davening for yourself is not selfish? Let's dig a little deeper, and I think this is going to come explain. Moshe Rabbeinu got his voice back when in last week's Parsha he starts speaking, and he speaks for 37 days until Rosh Chodesh, until Zayin Adar. And when Moshe Rabbeinu starts speaking, he suddenly is able to speak well. And in Parshas V'eschanan, he starts to daven. And he's davening to come into Eretz Yisrael. And every tefillah that he davened brought himself closer. But he never was able to come in. Says the Medrash, there's Asara L'Shonos of Tefillah. There's 10 languages of Tefillah. Starts from Shava, and then Tzaka, and Nipul, and Rino, all the different levels. And Pilul, and the final level is V'eschana. It's Chanina. What do we say about Moshe's Tefillah? That Moshe Rabbeinu davened for nothing. That he did not ask to use his schusim. And I want to dig into this because this is very, very powerful. There was no person ever in the history of the world who had the amount of rights to enter Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu took them out of Mitzrayim. He crossed the sea. He took them to Har Sinai. He davened for the eagle. He davened for them endless times throughout the Midbar. And he shouldn't come into Eretz Yisrael. And the place, they're about to come into Eretz Yisrael. So he had the Mokum and the Zman, the most opportune reason that Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, because of this. And here I want to take you deep. Mamish, very deep. And hang on. Hold on to your seat. Because Moshe Rabbeinu said, there are two types of tefillah. There's rachum v'chanun. What's the difference? Sometimes a person could think in his head, and it's not true, but he could think, because I did this, I'm going to get this. He thinks that Hashem is like his boss, his kids, his neighbor, his friends, his business partner. It's not a yin for yang. It's not a tit for tat. It doesn't work that way. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, if a person does a tefillah, what does rachum mean? If a person does a tefillah and he says, I want to use the schar that I have for putting on tzitzis, for lighting candles. I want to use that for Shabbos. I want to use that reward to help this person get better. Says Hashem, the reward that Hashem gives us is incredible. Why should Hashem give us reward? Imagine serving your creator. Isn't that in itself an unbelievable thing? We live in a physical world, but think about what this means, the power, the energy of everything. We're serving that. Isn't that enough? Hashem gives us schar. But he says the schar is only in Olam Haba. It's not in this world. So you want to use that for this? It's impossible. It's a different currency. It's not even exchangeable, says Hashem. That's Rachum. Hashem says, you know what? It's impossible. But what I'm going to do it for you anyways. Even though you're thinking wrong, you have no idea what's going on, says the Tiferes Tzion on the Medrash Rabbah. It's impossible. So that's Rachum. Hashem says, I'll give it to you anyways. Chanun is a matnas chinun. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to stand in front of all of Bnei Yisrael, about to come into Eretz Yisrael. He just took them out. He went through everything. He had every reason in the world. But he said, I want to do matnas chinun. I want to do it for free. No money, no nothing. Today I had an opportunity this morning. I needed help. I had a car that was 20 minutes from my house, and I need to pick it up. I have a good friend. I called him up. I said, I know that's Ben Azmanim. I said, are you doing anything now? He said, no. So I picked him up at his house. We picked up the car. He brought it back to my house, and I'm driving him back home. And I say to him, I'm really grateful that you did this favor. Is there any way I could make it up to you? So he says to me, he says, don't you remember a couple of years ago, I once was in a similar situation and you helped me? So I said, no, I mamish don't remember. And then I remembered. So what happened over here? I was coming to him as a friend. As a friend, help me. You're my friend. So of course you'll help me. You helped me? I didn't even remember that. I didn't remember that I helped him. Because he's a friend. Are we friends with Hashem? Do we think Hashem is our friend? Do we believe that? Do we think that Hashem wants to give us everything and that he has all the money in the world He has all the power in the world. He has all the glory in the world. He has all the kavod in the world. And he can make us anything. And when Hashem gives us money, Hashem gives us wealth of knowledge and physical wealth. It doesn't cost him anything. It's endless for Hashem. So how could we possibly believe that we need a reason to get something? If I ask you, can I borrow $10,000? I know that you're going to be missing $10,000. But if I ask Hashem for $10,000, he's not missing anything. So when a person says, I'm doing a mitzvah, because I did this mitzvah, let me get that mitzvah, he's missing the point. This is what the Sefer Hasidim means. That's not the point. The point isn't that Hashem wants you to have schusim. The point, says the Svasam, is for you to stop thinking in terms of money. Stop thinking in terms of reward. You'll say to me, the Gemara says, that his friend should get better. If someone gives money to tzedakah, that his friend should get better. Of course, he's a tzaddik gamor. I'm not saying not to do that. Give tzedakah, do mitzvos. But understand that the schar is not for the tzedakah. It's for the tzedakah. It's for the reason that you brought it. And I'm going to explain something very, very subtle. Sometimes you have a shiur. I go to a shiur, and we sometimes have something l'uli nishmas somebody. And it's a suffix in my head. Could you say l'uli nishmas if you're already doing something? You're anyways going to have the shiur. How could you make that l'uli nishmas? Sometimes you could do something extra. And when you do something bikoyach from that person, so his neshama mamish has an aliyah. And also in this world, when a person gives tzedakah mamish, so the mitzvah of tzedakah doesn't go to that person. I'll tell you even further. And this I'll try to say quickly because it's a huge idea. Mamish a huge idea. If you look in Igros Moshe, there's 40 pages devoted in Chelek Ches, the blue one, the one that's out of print, about the idea of Yisachar Zvulun. Yisachar Zvulun is not automatic. He says that Yisachar was the rich people. They had the best fields. And Zvulun were the poor people. And Yisachar said, we're going to do you, Zvulun, a favor. And we're going to allow you to work our fields. And we're going to allow you to take the produce and go sell it. You'll pay us rent for the fields and we'll split the profit. So Yisachar was doing Zvulun a favor. And Moshe says, Paskins la halacha. Yisachar Zvulun only works 50-50. And if a person does 49-51, it doesn't work. And he even is mistapik if the person is usher to do that. And he says, because you're not allowed to give more than a chomish. And he says, maybe you have mitzvahs of supporting Torah. So you have mitzvahs of this. He says, Bavada, if a person's rich, let's say a person's unbelievable rich, and he wants to support 10 kailul people and 10 different kailuls, he's allowed to do it, even though it's not 50%, because he has the mitzvah of being machzik Talmud Torah. It's a beautiful, wonderful, great mitzvah. But the schar of limud Torah is non-transferable. The chidush of Bnei Gad of Reuben, the wisdom of it is that it's able to work on 50-50. That Hashem said we were going to mizakeh Zvulun. Yismach Zvulun b'tzeisecha v'yisachar b'oyelecha. We're going to mizakeh them and give them an opportunity to get 50%. But it's unfathomable. It's non-transferable. Take a look in Igros Moshe, you'll be amazed. Bottom line is that we have to understand something very deep over here. That in tefillah, when it's so popular today, donate money here and you'll get a Yeshua, do this and you'll get that, do this and you get that. We need to stop thinking of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a bargaining tool. And that was Moshe Rabbeinu's message. Moshe said, I'm going to take the last days of my life, the last 200 days of my life from Tu B'Av. But the Gemara says, Ein Yom Smechin K'moi Tu B'Av. There's no happier day than Tu B'Av. It's the most happy day of the year. Except for Yom Kippur, where you get all your because the Mesim stopped dying and they started having shidduchim. We were matter to have that people can intermarry in the different shvatim. There was suddenly an achdus, and that's what brings the geula. That's how we can have the koyach that Moshe thought we can come into Eretz Yisrael. And this is why Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven wanted their chelik in Chutz La'aretz. Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven said, "Give us our chelik in Chutz La'aretz. We want to have it's Eretz Sichon v'Oig. We want to have the Tefillin Shel Yad V'Roish, which is 515. We want to have our chelik, because then Moshe Rabbeinu will be like he's in Eretz Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm also in Eretz Yisrael. I'm now in Eretz Yisrael. So maybe I should daven that I should come in. And Hashem said, Heref no. Be'esahi, on this day, which day? On Tu B'Av. This Shabbos, we could be Zoicha to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is what's called, Hashem says, Matana Toiva, like Shabbos, the Sefer Tevis of Zvas Cholav Udvash is Shabbos. The Sefer Tevis is Cholav Udvash, Tachas L'Shaynech, the last three letters are also Shabbos. He says that Shabbos is Bizman, but Eretz Yisrael is B'Mokum. And I said, let me come in. Let me come into Eretz Yisrael. Be'esahi on Tu B'Av, Hashem said to him, Heref no, because if you would daven 516 tefillos, like it says in the Gemara, I don't remember where, the Gemara says that if you would have davened another tefillah, you would have come in. Because Elokim times 5 is 516. Says the Ramdu, that if Bnei Yisrael would have davened for Moshe, he might have gone in. But Bnei Yisrael weren't holding there. The Satan said to Eyov, let's prove that he really loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he's willing to accept it. How did Eyov accept it? He said to his three friends who he had to daven for, Eliphaz and Bildad and Zophar, he said to them, don't tell me cheshbonos. Don't tell me why my kids died, why his 7 boys and 3 girls died, why his business was burnt to the ground, why everybody died, why he's laying there with boils, why his camels were lost, his sheep were lost, his oxen were lost. Don't tell me that it's a tikkun. Don't tell me I did chet. Don't give me reasons. Silence. And he said, Hashem nosan, Hashem lokach, Yishem Hashem Mevorach Me'atov Yadalo. That's what we say by every Levaya. This Shabbos, we have an opportunity to ask for a matnas chinam. And Eretz Yisrael is a matnas chinam. And it's a day that's mesugol to ask from Hashem to have the schus to come into Eretz Yisrael. We could all come. Everybody ends up here. There's not a person, a Jew in the world, who won't come to Eretz Yisrael and end here forever and ever. This is our final destination. We've left Mitzrayim. We've never fully gone into Eretz Yisrael. We're waiting, and Moshe is waiting with Klal Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. Hashem said, you wait, neged Baal Pa'or. You wait, neged Baal Tzefoin. Baal Tzefoin, the Medrash says, was a screen. Take a look. The Medrash says it was a screen that they looked into and they were able to see the future. You stood in front of Eretz Yisrael, Moshe, and you couldn't come in. But I'll tell you something nice. As if what we said until now wasn't nice. Moshe Rabbeinu says where Moshe David Valley that he saw all of Eretz Yisrael. He was able to capture all the places in Eretz Yisrael in one look. And like the Gemara says, when you see fruit coming out of Eretz Yisrael, when the land begins to produce produce, know that Mashiach is on the way.